She walked into the room like an actress stepping onto the stage far too late, and he looked at her as if he already knew the ending. 6 years of life dissolved into a single sentence. I'm seeing someone else. No shouting, no scene, just steel eyes and a quiet, "Who is he?" The one she once called just a coworker turned out to be the beginning of the end. And while she searched for freedom in someone else's arms, he began writing his own script, without blame, without drama, without a chance for rewrites. One day, one suitcase, one unspoken choice. She thought she was still in control, but the game had long since changed its rules. And when she returned, convinced her place was still waiting, she didn't recognize the home, nor the man who once waited for her words, because he wasn't waiting anymore. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. I should have caught it sooner, not because something blew up between us, or because there was a dramatic shift that couldn't be overlooked. It crept in slowly. Changes so minor they're invisible unless you're really tuned in. Like how she'd take a beat before replying, as though weighing whether it was even worth saying anything at all. Or how her phone seemed fused to her palm. Dinner had turned quiet, where it used to be filled with easy chatter, mindless stories, and talk of weekend plans. I still remember the exact moment it all crystallized. We were on the couch, like we had been so many times before. I was going on about a busted pipe at work, how water flooded the place and the building supervisor practically had a meltdown. She smiled at the story, but there was no warmth in it. That was the moment I understood. She was physically present, but mentally somewhere far away. 6 years of marriage. Beatrice and I had built a quiet life together, nothing extravagant, but solid. We didn't ride emotional roller coasters, and I thought that steadiness was something to be proud of. Turns out, I was mistaken. It was a Thursday evening when she finally said what she came to say. I was standing in the bedroom, flipping through a mess of bills and old envelopes stacked on the dresser. She came in, paused in the doorway like she was waiting for a director to cue her and said, "Can we talk?" I didn't sit, just stood there, waiting. "I'm seeing someone," she told me, eyes locked on the floor. It wasn't intentional. I nodded slowly. "Who is it?" I asked. There was a pause. "Andrew." The name hit me like a steel pipe to the chest. Andrew, her former coworker. The one who was always leaving quirky comments under her Instagram posts, tagging old inside jokes. The same guy she once brushed off as a harmless goof. I kept my voice even. "How long's it been going on?" 2 months, she said, finally meeting my gaze. "We haven't slept together." I kept my eyes on hers. "But you want to." She didn't respond. That silence told me everything. I sat down on the edge of the bed, leaning forward with my elbows on my knees. There was no anger yet. Just a frozen, hollow stillness, like a circuit had blown, and everything was moving in slow motion. She stepped in a bit closer. "I don't want to end things, Richard. I'm just lost." "I still care about you," she added. I looked right at her. "You're saying you care, while your heart's already with someone else." "I didn't go looking for this," she said, her voice catching. "With Andrew, I feel seen, like I matter." I didn't speak for a while. I let the silence do the work. Then I asked, "So, what now?" She exhaled. "I need some time. I need space to figure out what this all means, what we are." I stood up. "So you want to try things with him, while I just wait around, just in case it doesn't work out?" "That's not how I see it." "But it's exactly what you're doing," I said, quiet but firm. She didn't argue, just stood there like a kid who got caught doing something they knew they shouldn't. I walked past her without another word, not because I had nothing left to say, but because everything that needed saying had already been said. She left the following morning. No dramatic scene, no suitcases, just an overnight bag and that forest green coat she always tied twice at the waist. She didn't offer a destination, and I didn't ask. I knew. It was Andrew. She lingered in the entryway for a second. I was at the dining table, coffee in hand, not bothering to lift my eyes. "I'm not sure how long I'll be gone," she said. "This isn't goodbye, just time apart." I stayed silent. She hesitated like she expected some reaction, a plea, a tear, maybe a last-minute change of heart. All she got was the soft clink of my spoon against the ceramic mug. Then she was gone. I waited until her car faded down the street before getting up. The quiet that followed didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the house itself was trying to get used to her absence, murmuring her name in the walls. I didn't pick up the phone, didn't reach out to friends, didn't post cryptic quotes online. I just started peeling her out of the place, one object at a time. The mirror she insisted we hang by the hallway? Removed. That aloe plant she doted on in the bathroom? Thrown out. It wasn't about vengeance. I just needed a space that didn't breathe her name every time I turned a corner. By lunchtime, I was at my computer, staring at a fresh document titled Separation Plan. This wasn't retaliation. It was just the next step. That night, she sent me a message. "Hope today wasn't too hard. I'll check in tomorrow." I read it once, then typed back, "Take your time." That was all. No prying questions. No aching, "I miss you." No wondering where she was or who she was with. Deep down, I already understood this wasn't just a temporary pause. She was testing the waters with someone new, looking for something I couldn't provide. What she didn't get was that I wasn't going to stay suspended in place while she figured out her heart. She thought she had all the time in the world, but in truth, her time was already slipping away. By the second week, her messages changed. They came more frequently, and with more depth. No more surface-level check-ins, but real thoughts. One stood out. "I've been thinking a lot about what we had. Being away feels off. Andrew, he's not who I thought." I missed talking to her. That line landed differently than anything she'd said before. I read it twice, then set my phone down. I didn't rush to respond. Instead, I waited until morning before sending a simple message back. "I'm doing all right. Hope things are okay with you too." It was short, polite, emotionless, and it threw her off balance. Her replies started to shift, less confident, more cautious. She asked if I was sleeping okay, wondered if the house felt any different, asked if I'd moved things around. Then she brought up counseling. Not just for herself, she meant both of us. It was like watching someone slowly realize their escape plan had failed. That's when I started thinking practically. One of my colleagues, Julian, had gone through something like this not too long ago. Quiet guy, sharp. He once told me about a lawyer who handled his separation with total discretion. No drawn-out mess, no unnecessary drama. He swore it was the smartest choice he'd made. I trusted his instincts. That same night, I contacted Victoria. By the next afternoon, I had a consultation scheduled. Beatrice had no idea. She still acted like things were just on pause, like she'd return and everything would go back to how it was. One night, she called from an unfamiliar number. I almost let it ring out. When I answered, her voice was soft, careful. "Hey, it's me." "Yeah, I figured. I just needed to hear your voice." I stayed quiet. "Andrew and I—" She hesitated. "It's not what I thought it would be. He hasn't changed, still shuts down, still sulks when things get hard." It sounded like she'd tried to step back into a memory, only to realize it had never really been solid. I didn't offer her comfort. "Sometimes things stay in the past for a reason," I said. She didn't respond. I let the silence stretch out. "Do you think we could meet? Talk in person?" she eventually asked. Maybe, I replied, if the time feels right. I ended the call because I hadn't finished building the next chapter of my life yet. 3 weeks after she walked out, I sat in Victoria's office, signing the documents. She was focused and to the point, professional, efficient. She'd reviewed the prenup and walked me through a clean, direct exit strategy. No drama, no back and forth, just a quiet, clean slate. From there, I headed straight to the bank, opened a new account, redirected my pay, divided up the utilities still in both our names. Quiet moves, deliberate ones. Meanwhile, Beatrice was unraveling. Her messages turned sentimental. Remember that storm during the lake trip? We ended up in that diner all night. Another one read, I've been writing, trying to make sense of things. I think I messed up. Then came the one that made her desperation clear. Can we talk? I'd like to stop by. No pressure, just talk. I waited until the next day to reply. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., just to talk. She showed up at 9:57, same coat, but her eyes told a different story, tired, uncertain, maybe clinging to hope. When she walked in, she looked around like she didn't recognize the place. I'd changed the furniture, painted the walls a warmer tone, updated the kitchen lights. You painted? She said. Yeah. It feels different. We sat across from each other. No hugs, no wine, just distance, stillness. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, controlled, like she'd rehearsed it. I thought I needed to figure things out, to see what else was out there. But Andrew wasn't the answer. He's the same, entitled, withdrawn. Now I see it. I listened without reacting, then stood up, went to a drawer, and brought back a folder. What's that? She asked. I placed it on the table. Everything's in here. She opened it. Divorce papers. Her hands shook slightly. You're serious? I've been serious since the day you left, I said. You just didn't want to believe it. She stared at the paperwork like she didn't recognize the language. You don't have to do this, she whispered. We can work on it. I'm ready now. I understand what I did. But I didn't move. I'm not angry, Beatrice, I said. But I'm not going to rebuild something you were willing to walk away from. That's not how this works. She touched the folder lightly, like maybe that gesture could erase what it meant. I was lost. I thought Andrew could give me clarity. But being with him only reminded me why I left in the first place. That was the first time she said it that way. Left him. Andrew wasn't just someone she worked with. He was part of her past. A chapter she thought needed revisiting. The irony is, in 6 years, she never admitted that. He was always just Andrew from the office, just a co-worker. I guess it made everything easier to understand. I sank back into my chair. So, you went back to him? I asked. While you were off chasing certainty, I was here, trying to salvage what was left. I panicked, she said quietly. I didn't know how to talk to you. You always seem so in control, Richard. I didn't think you'd even want to fight for us. That's where you were wrong, I replied. You took my silence as a sign that I didn't care, but that wasn't the case at all. It was strategy, stillness. I needed to see who you'd become when you thought I'd stopped watching. Her lips drew tight. So all this time, you were just waiting for your moment to leave? No, I said gently. I was figuring out how to keep going after you. Her eyes stayed dry, but her voice wavered. Can't we try something? Therapy? Just once? Don't we owe that to ourselves? I stood up slowly. You owed that before you walked out. She blinked like the truth had only now caught up to her. You're actually doing this. I nodded. This moment already came and went. You just didn't see it. She sat motionless, lost in the pause. I walked into the kitchen, filled a glass of water, and waited. After a while, she rose too, hugging a folder close like it might give her back something she'd misplaced. So, this is really it, she murmured. For me, it ended 3 weeks ago, I said. This is just the paperwork. She stepped outside without another word. No hug, no parting tears, just the muted sound of her shoes on the pavement and the car door closing behind her. That was the final time Beatrice crossed my threshold, but nowhere near the last time I'd wonder how she left so easily. 2 months have passed since the divorce was finalized. No attempts to reconcile, no tearful late-night phone calls, just an email with a PDF from her lawyer, and silence ever since. The house doesn't feel haunted anymore. It feels like it belongs to me again. I replaced the bedding, donated her favorite armchair, and tossed out that framed cityscape she adored, the one she said looked like infinite opportunity. I always thought it looked like smog. I didn't make a public post, no status updates, no soul-bearing monologues about starting fresh. I just moved forward, quietly, intentionally. Beatrice hasn't contacted me since, not a text, not even a like. But once in a while, I see her name pop up in the viewers of my stories. That's enough. I don't need an apology. I don't need closure neatly gift-wrapped in the form of one final conversation. Nobody really talks about the strange peace that arrives when you finally stop hoping someone will come back. When you begin choosing yourself instead, and realize that's more than enough. A couple weekends ago, I got in the car and just drove. No map, no timeline. I ended up in a sleepy little town with a cozy cafe tucked beside a used bookstore. I spent the whole afternoon there, reading, jotting thoughts into a notebook. A woman named Celeste sat nearby and noticed the novel I was flipping through. We started chatting. We talked about fresh starts and how healing isn't always loud or cinematic. It's soft, subtle, barely noticeable. She gave me her number, no pressure, no promises, just a kind and genuine moment. On the drive back, I realized something. I hadn't thought about Beatrice the entire time. Not once, not where she was, not if she missed me. She'd become background noise in a life that had finally found its rhythm again. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't about winning. It was about waking up in the morning and making coffee without bracing for another emotional ambush. It was about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to be chosen to feel whole. Maybe that was the real love story all along. Then came last Saturday, frozen foods aisle. I was reaching for a bag of peas. She was going for oat milk. We both paused. She seemed smaller, not physically, just dimmed, like someone who hadn't had a good night's sleep in a while. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey." We stood there, letting the world rush past us. "You look good," she said. "Thanks." "So do you," I offered, even though it wasn't exactly true. I figured it was something she needed to hear. The silence wasn't tense, just tired. She glanced at my shopping cart. "Cooking for someone?" I smiled. "Just me." She nodded slowly, as if that was harder to comprehend than it should have been. "I keep thinking about that day," she said. "You were so calm. I expected yelling, something bigger." "That's not how I fight," I said with a shrug. She laughed, but it was a fragile sound, equal parts remorse and realization. "I get that now." We stood there for a bit longer, wrapped in everything unspoken. She shifted like there was something more she wanted to say, but couldn't quite find the words. "Are you happy?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. Not because I was unsure, but because I wasn't. I was certain. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. After 30 years of marriage, Monday evening found me at the kitchen table with my wonderful wife, Katrina, though I affectionately call her Katie. She was preparing a classic dish that filled the air with a mouth-watering aroma. The pan sizzled, and, as if by magic, she managed to bring the cauliflower cheese to a delightful golden brown crust. It was just the way I love it, crispy and delicious. As a side dish, she served the leftover roast beef from the previous night, accompanied by a few tangy pickles. To top it all off, she surprised me with a pint of my favorite beer. I figured it was perfectly acceptable to treat myself to a strong beer on a weekday evening. After all, it's a small pleasure in the grand scheme of life. But having known Katie for 35 years, I could sense a shift in the air. Something was brewing, and I had a hunch I wouldn't be too pleased about it. Then came the revelation. "I'm going out for dinner on Friday evening with one of the guys from work," she casually announced. My heart sank for a moment. But before you jump to conclusions, let me clarify. It's just dinner. No romantic involvement or secret affairs, so let's put that idea to rest right now. Still, I wasn't expecting this turn of events, and it left me feeling a mix of surprise and unease. Although I maintained a calm exterior, inside, a whirlwind of emotions was raging. I yearned for a spark, excitement, something to break the monotony that had settled into our lives. I could almost hear the ticking clock, counting down to the moment when I would have to confront the reality of my own desires. I felt the grip of routine tightening, and I wondered where this new path might lead both of us. So, now I'm to blame for things becoming a bit dull? Funny, but you didn't seem to think that when I took you out for dinner and dancing last Saturday, or when we celebrated our quiz night win at the pub with a bottle of champagne on Friday. You were practically glowing with excitement that night. That was us living life to the fullest. And now, I want something for myself, and believe me, it has nothing to do with intimacy. It's just dinner. And who is this man, and when did you decide to start this little adventure? His name is Ronald. He's been persistent for months, but I kept saying no. Tonight he asked again and swore it's just a casual dinner. No intimacy, he promised, and I reluctantly agreed. Ronald, the new guy she mentioned a few months ago and then suddenly stopped talking about. I remember dropping by her office once when she forgot her lunch, and there he was. You know that feeling when you instantly dislike someone who's just too charming? That was my first impression of him, and our encounters in town did nothing to change my opinion. I don't like that you're going, but it's your decision. But know that I'm raising a red flag. I don't trust him, and I'm skeptical of this whole no-strings-attached situation. Remember, I've seen him. The next 2 days felt like a deep freeze had settled over the house. When she came home later than usual on Wednesday, she had a grocery bag in her hand. It wasn't just any bag. 2 extra handles were peeking out, hinting at something hidden inside. Quickly stuffing one bag into the other, she made a move that sent a chill down my spine. While she prepared dinner, I slipped out to take a shower, curiosity raging in my mind. In a moment of temptation, I peeked into the far corner of her closet. My heart raced when I noticed another bag. Inside it was a stunning satin blue dress and a brand new pair of stockings. I was desperately tempted to take it out and unravel the mystery, but I knew that would reveal my secret discovery. And what if it was a surprise for me? The thought gnawed at me, but skepticism still crept in. Thursday dawned, and I continued with my usual routine. But as soon as I stepped outside, I called in sick to work. I had a mission. The night was bitterly cold, and I was bracing myself for what was to come. She mentioned she would leave early on Friday morning, which meant that by the time I got home after my shift, she would likely already be gone. It hit me. She was probably planning to slip into that seductive dress without me knowing. This was a twist I certainly hadn't expected. The speech was supposed to be delivered earlier than expected, and the tension in the air was palpable. "So, where are you heading for your date?" I asked sharply. "I'm not telling you. You'll just show up and ruin everything," she replied, defiance dancing in her eyes. But I couldn't let it go. "You need to think about what you're doing, going on a date with another man while you're still married to me, and you don't even want to tell me where you're going? That's unacceptable." With firm resolve, I added, "If you leave, I'll make sure you end up on the street." Her expression shifted to one of disbelief. "You wouldn't do that. You love me," she countered, her voice tinged with desperation. "I love you," I admitted, "but do you really want to test that love?" She lowered her gaze, visibly tense under the weight of my words. "I think your company has a morality policy, right?" she asked, a hint of disdain creeping back into her tone. "I'll be sure to find out," I replied evenly. "But maybe you don't realize that you don't need to take this risk." "But I could get fired!" she exclaimed, panic evident in her voice. "Are you really willing to risk everything?" I concluded with finality. "I don't expect to be here when you get back if you go on that date with him. Whether or not you end up in bed with him doesn't matter." I saw how my words impacted her. She understood now. The nights were growing colder, the distance between us wider. I started leaving for work earlier, desperately trying to avoid morning confrontations, but always came home sooner than expected. Tonight was no exception. I returned, ready to face whatever awaited me. The car was parked on the street, silently guarding the secrets within. I slipped into the house, wrapped in silence, and waited in the shadows for 15 long minutes after the relentless rain had finally stopped. Eventually, I went upstairs to our bedroom. There she stood, like a vision, in a satin dress that clung to her curves, exuding a charm that took my breath away. "So this is why you're leaving so early," I thought. "You're hiding this stunning outfit from me." I picked up the discarded stocking package lying on the bed and saw a blush of embarrassment cross her cheeks. "So, you didn't plan on sleeping with him, but you're going out dressed like a total seductress." I fought the urge to say something harsher, knowing it might push her away. I still held on to the hope that I could reach her before she slipped out the door. I remembered our evenings at the restaurant, where I would dress in my own blouse, skirt, and tights. No stockings, but Ronald bought those for me. And now, here she is, in a dress that could turn heads. "Who paid for this?" I asked, feeling the tension rising in my voice. "I did," she replied casually, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "With money from our joint account?" I asked. "Yes," she answered, and there it was, the confirmation that stung. "So I paid for this. You used my money." "Why are you even seeing him?" I asked, disappointment simmering deep inside. "I want something real, something exciting." At that moment, the doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. I headed down the stairs, and she followed behind like a shadow. Ronald had arrived, and the look of surprise on his face was almost comical. The atmosphere was thick with uncertainty, and I decided it was time to lay everything on the line. "Here's the deal. If you walk out that door, it's over between us. There's no going back." "That won't work," she replied defiantly. "You love me." Ronald, with calm confidence, extended his hand to her. "Katie, it's time to make a choice." His words hung in the air, and suddenly the weight of the moment seemed unbearable to her. Taking a deep breath, she stepped onto the porch, leaving me standing in the doorway. I squeezed past them, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "Katrina!" I called out, and she turned to face me. From my back pocket, I pulled out the envelope containing the divorce papers, the wedding ring glinting in the light. I slid the ring inside, sealed the envelope, and held it out to her. But she didn't take it. Ronald's hand was still hovering in the air, and I firmly placed the envelope in his palm. I looked up at him and spoke in a steady voice. "When you're done with your little escapade, make sure she gets this." And just like that, the air filled with the crackling tension of unspoken words and unresolved emotions as the door closed behind them. As I approached the house, I saw the "For Sale" sign hanging like a ghost of my past, a reminder of the decision I had made. I tore it from its place and pinned it to the post by the fence, a symbolic act of severing ties. Katrina froze in the doorway, her face a picture of shock, her mouth agape as if trying to grasp the reality unfolding before her. I rushed past her, my heart pounding with adrenaline and resolve, and headed inside to pack my things. I slung a backpack over my shoulder and dragged a large suitcase behind me, feeling the weight of my decision with every step. Tossing my belongings into the back seat of my car, I turned to face Katrina and spoke in a calm but firm voice. "I'll be back tomorrow to collect the rest of my things. Just make sure he's not in the house," I said, gesturing toward Ronald. As my words sank in, Katrina collapsed to the floor, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Now you can date and sleep with whoever you want," she sobbed, her voice filled with anguish. "Ronald," Ever the provocateur, smirked and shoved me aside. "Oh, how sweet," he mocked, clearly reveling in the chaos. But I couldn't let his smug behavior go unchallenged. I was grateful for the cameras capturing every moment, immortalizing Ronald's arrogance for all to see. With a swift motion, I stepped forward and drove my knee into his gut with all the force I could muster. He crumpled to the floor, gasping for air in shock and humiliation, while Katrina lay on the ground, tears glistening in her eyes as she looked at me with a mix of fear and admiration. "Don't mess with me," I warned, my voice low and fierce. "See you tomorrow," I added, before walking out, leaving the chaos behind me. I drove to my parents' house where they awaited my arrival with open arms. It was Saturday, and I returned to the scene, determined to reclaim the remnants of my life. Ronald was nowhere to be found, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. Her voice was desperate as she pleaded with me to reconsider. But I couldn't shake the feeling that when she goes out in such attire with her colleagues, it's a blatant sign of her disregard for our relationship. I saw the cracks forming and refused to watch her lose herself in a world where I no longer existed. I wasn't going to stay in the background. I am going to take everything from her. I've spent 30 years on this cheater, and I won't tolerate these antics any longer. With a heavy heart and newfound determination, I packed my things and left, ready to start a new chapter in my life, resolute in leaving the past behind. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.